Welcome to this episode of YouTube where I've entitled it The Fall Colors, and we are, or have been, in a good fall coloration. It took a little while to get some colors here because we didn't have any really frosty nights, and typically what you need is some cool nights followed by some sunny days, and that dries up the chlorophyll and allows the carotenoid pigments to take over and bring us the nice fall colors that we like. So we had a great photography weekend a few weekends ago, and last weekend was the women's getaway weekend and had some fantastic weather for humans, not so fantastic for wolves. And you can see Aiden pantsing here. These wolves are in their full winter coats. They're not expecting 86 degrees in October. Yes, we had 86 degrees, and that was last weekend. So we are seeing a little bit of reduced activity because of that. Normally by this time we're starting to see a little bit more of that winter dominance, but one of the other things too, with every one of these kind of warm spells that comes in, it usually comes in with some wind, and we know from the past experiences with wolves that wind makes them nervous, and so we see that in their ear postures, and certainly we see that in their watching the trees, looking up quite a bit, a little bit of nervous anxiety. Bolts comes over to Aiden, and at first Aiden looked a little intimidated, and Bolts is kind of doing a little bit of a stand next to him, but not really a stand over. So again, we got to watch that situation where Aiden might be intimidated and might create a scenario where Bolts tries to take advantage of him. But at this point, things are pretty calm. There's moments again when Luna just gets extremely possessive with wolf care staff and with food and various other things, and that creates anxiety and certainly creates a little bit of redirected aggression sometimes towards Luna from Aiden. Certainly Luna does this play bow, kind of pawing up at Aiden and kind of snapping at him, riding up, and Aiden asserts some authority, and that's the only thing that we're really seeing. Initially, about a month ago, we were seeing Bolts kind of ride up on Aiden, but that seems to have ended. Now Bolts is just kind of engaging with Luna when she starts doing that, or staying back. That's a typical Denali move as well. When Luna and Aiden are engaged in some type of intensity, they both kind of back off. Aiden will put her in a subordinate posture, and she'll let out a kind of a little squeal, and the rest of the pack just kind of backs off. So definitely hoping that settles down. Luna again has got her moments, and so we always want to be very cautious about what situation she's in. Certainly we want to make sure that there's enough wolf care staff in, that everybody gets an opportunity to greet, and we don't have to worry about one wolf guarding over another. But as you can see here, the pack is doing pretty well. So like I said, Bolts seems to be a little bit more timid than what we've seen him in last month, and again the wind is making him put his ears, what we call pricked and turned sideways, looking up at that branches that are coming down or trees that might come down, and that nature of Bolts to be a little bit more anxious creates that scenario where he's going to probably express a little bit more stress about that, and that's what that yawn probably was. Denali, like I said, just keeps on eating. Denali's still got the ears kind of pricked to the sides, the wind's still bothering him, but he's definitely a wolf that gets his food resources, and that's his first and foremost priority. So that's what's kind of been going on this fall, and like I said, we had some timing where we were hoping for color. We were certainly hoping for a little bit more color before the wolf photography weekend in early October, but we got a little bit of color in a nice contrast, and certainly Luna is magnificent in fall color. She has a great pelage. Her winter coat is growing in quite well. She has a very soft coat. They all do, actually. Usually a good indication of dealing well with nutritional foods. What we're feeding seems to be working as far as the food resources available to them, but also the supplements that we're giving to make sure that they maintain a good health. And so, like I said, a good contrast, but the issue with the wind was that we lost a lot of leaves. So they were reddish coloration for about maybe 2 or 3 days, and then they were gone. So the pack is obviously easier to see without leaves. You're going to see more activity around the enclosure, and you're going to see the wolves more visible just because the cover is gone. We are going to start putting in cover hay in the dens. We had a 26-degree temperature last night. So we're going to start getting the dens transition from wood chips, which is a summer kind of cooling insect repellent, to cover hay. And so, like I said, the activity that we normally see in the fall and winter is starting to pick up a little bit. But we are seeing a lot of Luna and Bolt's interactions, and a lot of, they just saw a hip check when he came up on the den, or Luna came up on the den. Bolt's was there first. And again, we're watching Luna. She's doing quite well. This back leg doesn't seem to be bothering her at all. And so we are, as we move forward here, we're going to actually start on the pond restoration. We are now closed to the public during the week. We still have school groups and lots of educational things going on, but we're open to the public on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, starting now here October 19th. And what that means is that it'll give us a little bit of time to do some pond work, and we're going to be bringing in some concrete. We're going to be building up kind of a retaining area that allows us to put in a UV filter that is going to be above ground in order to get the amount of flowage we need to be able to control algae. We need to have a fairly large filter system, and so that means we're going to start pulling the wolves off for periods of time and doing some rock work and doing some concrete work. And the wolves had their first take on it when we just kind of ran a little bit of the idea of where it was going to go. We moved some rocks, and that created the wolves an opportunity to scent mark when they came back out. So there'll be bouts of that all this week. Coming up Monday, the wolves will be out for probably several hours as they concrete inside the enclosure, and then we'll put in protective panels to try to keep them out of it. And then we'll come in with taking the forms off, letting the concrete dry, and then the last step on Thursday will be adding some rocks and hopefully being able to get some protective covers and latches and things so that allow us to get into the pond housing and to be able to do some work in there and protect it from the wolves. This is what Aiden thinks about our pond work. This is a mark. Defecation is a way that wolves will mark anything new and out of the ordinary, and you can see Aiden's got a pretty good hop in his step there. He's doing pretty good. We're actually been very happy with his treatment. So over in Grizzer's area, he's going to have to be spending more time in the back habitat in the east side. Still got a lot of vegetation over there on the east side, but he likes the opportunity to roam back and forth, and so we're going to have a little bit of a change for him as the pack is drawn off 3 or 4 times a week. So until we get this pond work done, he's going to have to adapt to it. Now, he has adapted quite well to the noise of the construction. You can kind of hear pounding in the background. We haven't started the building yet, but we've got fence down, trees down. Everything is ready to go for this building to start. I think the bids were let last week, and so we have a 2-week turnaround here to find out where we're at with the building and how things came in as far as the bid price. We're very excited to get it done because we're very excited to have Grizzer join us in the wolf lab through a doggy door into a secure kennel. I think Grizzer will like that, and certainly as we move forward this winter here, we're going to get everything set up and ready for the puppies. But Grizzer's kind of a hard one to film. You know, we did a little investigative work here in his den to see how things were progressing, see what we needed for cover hay there, and anywhere we go, he marks. And not just us. As I said, the exhibit pack gets locked off and the pack holding area. That means Grizzer's got to stay back on the east side. And here you'll see Wolf Care volunteer Don Gossett is creating the chute, or opening up the chute so that Grizzer can come back in. And you can see these gates are designed so that they allow for an opportunity to lock Grizzer in the back east side. And actually what Don is opening up is the pack holding area. That's where the pack just was while they were being held off for the pond. And in this case, now the pack is back, and we always double check to make sure that they are back and those gates on the other side are secure. And always, always, always double check every lock, every gate. You can't become complacent when it comes to wolves. We certainly don't want an introduction of Grizzer in the pack. We know that that's traumatic for Grizzer to deal with that issue. So we always make sure that Grizzer's safe before the pack comes back out. And so Grizzer is going to come and check everything out, same way he does with us when we're doing some work in the enclosure. He's going to see where the wolves were. And so he walks kind of through the enclosure. And notice, those of you who are on the Working for Wolves, we still have some pine, some red pine that are still in this pack holding area. We're happy to report that they survived a summer of Grizzer. I hope they can survive till pups next spring. We may very well have to plant some more before the pups come. But you can see Grizzer here wandering around, checking everywhere the wolves have been. Now, again, if he has a cache, that would mean that he's going to have to look and see if they took his cache. So he's got a few places. It looks like a wolf did a mark or a urination there, so he's going to sniff it and try to figure out who it was and go into doing his own overmark, which we call an RLU, raised leg urination, where he will mark where they've been and then scrape the ground to broadcast his scent. Now, you might have noticed that Aiden did that as well after he defecated. That's just a status thing, so that lets everybody know that he's been there and he's going to mark that area. So that's it. Again, we're anxious to see construction. Hopefully our next YouTube will be about construction. But in the meantime, we do have a webinar coming up. On October 23rd, we have a webinar, and we will be featuring a short clip, about a 20-minute clip of Wolf Real or Imagined. Really, it's a great clip by filmmaker Bruce Wide, who has looked at the influence or the images of wolves in the media and how that kind of shapes our perspective. And we are actually going to start with the exhibit pack first and discuss a few myths about wolf behavior, only because we're losing daylight, and so we don't want to run the video first and then have low light camera conditions, because the pack, I think, is going to be pretty active. So we'll start with the observations of the wolves, a discussion about the myths about wolf behavior and some interpretation about wolf behavior, and then we're going to go to the film, Wolf Real or Imagined. So join us. You can still log in. I know it automatically closed here last week. We opened it back up. We will keep it open until Thursday, the 22nd at noon. So if you want to join us and watch, that would be great. And just log in, and we'll see you next time. Have a good week.